So, me back here again, and today we're doing the last task of Splunk. The last task is or includes 400 serious questions, and it is considered as one of the easiest tasks you will ever encounter, except the last question. So basically, the scenario is about investigating FTP traffic. All right, so let's get started. So the first question is, a federal law enforcement agency reports that Taden gang often spearfishes its victims with zip files that have to be opened with a password. What is the name of the attachment sent to fraudulently by a malicious Taden gang actor? Okay, so here the question highlights spearfishing, okay, zip files, and a password, which means that we have to look first in the email traffic or SMTP traffic along with zip files. So to construct a query, I have just typed a query here, and then we go to Splunk, highlighting the datasets, source type SMTP for emails and zip for or star or asterisk.zip for zip files. So we click on search, and the number of events that have been returned are 6. So the number of events 6. If we scroll down, or if we just pipe this to reverse, display the events in a reverse order, so the oldest events appear first. So taking a look at the first one, so there is no mention of an attachment or sender or receiver. Let's go scroll down here. We see here we have the sender, Jim Smith, and let's take a look at the subject. The subject would give us some hint about the content of the email. The subject is invoice, so there's a good chance that the attachment is here as an invoice. If we click on show as raw text, the first line we have an attachment. Attachment name file name is invoice.zip, which is the answer for the first question. Now, what is the password to open the zip file? So finding the password is not so difficult. If the zip file was actually encrypted, then the password should be in the content of the email, like the sender would have notified the receiver that the password is something like whatever, right? So if you look at the content of the email, so starting from after content type and all the way, okay, as we haven't received a service cessation letter, I'm assuming that you might have accidentally overlooked this invoice. Should you wish to bring an end to the agreement, please let us know. Otherwise, early withdrawal penalties will apply next month. Okay, so please enter the password for the zip file, and the password is all numbers. Right, next one. The Taden gang APT group encrypts most of their traffic with SSL. What is the SSL issuer that they use for the majority of their traffic? Answer guidance, copy the field exactly, including spaces. All right, so there is a mention for an SSL here. So we would look for HTTP traffic and then filter to look for HTTPS, but the question here is highlighting SSL in general. So we would assume that the Taden gang APT group uses SSL in all of their traffic, which means we have to look for TCP traffic. So let me copy the comment. So let's scroll up. The source is TCP. We would like to look for all of the TCP traffic to find out the SSL use in the events. And here the IP address is taken from previous questions. So basically, we are looking for those who attacked the brewer website. If you click on the hint here, if you scroll up, the hints for the question is saying you will need the attacker's IP address. Remember, there was an IP address scanning brewer talk. So if you have completed the previous tasks, go to task 200 or task 2, and remember that the IP address was 45.77.65.211. So we use the IP address in the query to look for TCP traffic, okay, involving or including the IP address of the attacker. We click on search. Since we're looking for SSL traffic, we will look at the interesting fields. And in the interesting fields, we see fields related to SSL. So in the question, we are interested to find, or we're interested in finding the SSL issuer. So let's see if the SSL issuer is listed in the interesting fields. So we see there is a field called SSL issuer. We click on that. We have only one, which is C equal US, which is the answer for the question. All right, what unusual file for an American company does WinSys32.dll cause to be downloaded into Frothy environments? As you can see, the answer is in Chinese characters, maybe Korean. I'm not aware of these languages. But what unusual file for an American company? The hint here is that the unusual file should be in a language that is unusual for an American company, which means the file name is not in English. That's the first hint to answer the question. The second hint here, does WinSys32DLL cause to be downloaded into Frothy environments? Now here, if you take this and Google it to see what it is. Let's take a look at the description from FileNet. Okay, it's a backdoor Trojan file that connects to a remote IRC server and waits for commands from the remote user. It activates an IRC client, which provides the remote hacker access to your system. So as you can see, the description here is saying it's not essential for Windows. So most probably this is kind of DLL Trojan, but here we're looking at the executable file. We want to see the DLL file, if there's a description available for it. Let's see Microsoft. Here there's a blue screen. I think the scenario here is irrelevant. Description. So the executable version of it is a backdoor. And the snippet is by file.net. So there is no consensus on the nature of this DLL file. That's why we look at the hints. If you go to question number 4, next task, find an unusual file that was downloaded with WinSys32DLL. Now, the hint here is saying that you have to investigate the FTP traffic. And I know that a file could be downloaded several ways. One of it is FTP. Other ways could be by HTTP. But in the question, we will look for the FTP traffic. So let me grab the command and I will explain the parts of it. So paste it. So we look at the source or dataset. The source type is FTP since download operation is involved and the method is retrieve. But before putting the method here and before putting reverse, let's first search with the source type as FTP and see what kind or what are the number of events that will be returned. So we have 1,490 events, which is too much to go through. That's why we have to look at the interesting fields. In the interesting fields, we see two important interesting fields. One is method and the other one is method parameter. Method is we have 9 methods. And for downloading files over FTP, the method used is retrieve. Okay, so we click on that. And the number of events returned is 14 events, which is good. It means that we are going in the right direction. 14 events is not that difficult to go through and filter to the answer. So pipe that to reverse, display the oldest first. So we construct the timeline of the events, oldest to newest. So here we see connecting to ports, file transferred or file successfully transferred. Okay, here we see connecting to port, file successfully downloaded. Okay, 104 bytes to download, file successfully transferred. So it could be potential that the file has been downloaded in this event. So show as raw text. Let's see here. Okay, next one. So we can see here the file names or the files that are being downloaded, their names are listed under method parameter. So maybe what we can do here, we can reconstruct the query and pipe it to table method parameter, right? Method underscore parameter to see what are the file names that have been downloaded. DNS NC. So it's pretty much obvious that the unusual file name to an American company is this one. So this is the file that has been downloaded and at the same time unusual to an American company. All right, what is the first and last name of the poor innocent sap who was implicated in the metadata of the file that executed PowerShell Empire on the first victim's workstation? So technically there was a file that executed the PowerShell command on the target system. This file has a name of a guy in its metadata. Okay, so we have to take a look at the malware itself and see its metadata. We know we don't have access to the malware. That's why the owner of the room has uploaded the malware to the various malware analysis platforms, and from there we will extract the answer. So if we go to VirusTotal, and here is the results of the scan on the malware itself. If you go on the details, you see the details and the other metadata of the file. You see here we have in the magic, last saved by Ryan Cover. So that's the only name mentioned in the metadata, which is the answer to the question. Within the document, what kind of points are mentioned if you found the text? So within the document. So we have to open the document itself to answer the question. That's why we'll go to any run. These links are provided by the owner of the room. You can click on them directly and open the tab. So see here, the file was opened, and inside the file you see this screenshot. Congrats, it looks like you have a VirusTotal account and chose to live on the edge. If you find this, turn it in for some cyber East egg points. So the kind of points, okay, or that in the file, cyber East egg. So the cyber East egg. The last one, which is the most difficult, to maintain persistence in the Frothley network, Tadengang APT configured several scheduled tasks to beacon back to their C2 server. What single web page is most contacted by these scheduled tasks? Answer example is index or images. So the first thing to notice from the question is the presence of scheduled tasks. So the attackers probably has created or used the scheduled task executable file. So the first step in finding the answer is including the scheduled task keyword in the query in Splunk. So let me grab this first, okay, and go to Splunk. So we include the scheduled task in the query. Take a look at the number of events involving the scheduled task. So we have 103 events, which is also not practical to go through one by one. That's why we have to use the interesting fields. Among the interesting fields that we can use is the source type. We have Sysmon and we have event log. And since we're talking about scheduled tasks and beaconing activity, these kind of events are logged with Sysmon or System Monitor. So if we change the source type to Sysmon or include it in the search query, the number of events has been narrowed down significantly, 67 events, but we still have some work to do. Let's take a look at the interesting fields. Okay, so since we're looking at the scheduled tasks, most probably there is a command that is being executed, okay, to transfer or to communicate with the C2 servers. So we have parent process. As you can see, one is PowerShell. If also we have in the parent command line, as you can see, we have PowerShell commands. All right. So if we click on one of them, or if we table, let's use table, or first DDAP, let's use the parent command line, and then table, parent command line, also command line. So we'd like to show the command line and the parent process of the command line. So we see in the parent command line, we have PowerShell command. On the right, the command line is, as you can see, the scheduled task. So there is a scheduled task that is running PowerShell on registry key, which is software Microsoft Network Debug. So how is that relevant to our question? Let's get back to the question. To maintain persistence in the Frothley network, Tatum Gang APT configured several scheduled tasks to beacon back to the C2 server. What single web page is most contacted by these scheduled tasks? So arriving at the original command that is executing PowerShell here, you see it is related to registry. So there is something that is being executed on the registry key software Microsoft Network Debug. Now, if we find out what are the registry keys and their corresponding values in this registry key or this registry path, most likely we would end up with the exact values of the web pages that are being contacted. That's why we switch to a new command. The new command is this one. So the source is Windows registry. We'd like to examine the Windows registry. And the keyword is software Microsoft Network, which is the path. We take it from here. Now let me cancel 2 here. 2. So one escape only. So the number of events returned is 4. Now if we examine them one by one, let's take a look at this first one, or let's say reverse oldest to newest. Okay, first one. So to extract the values of the keys, we have to take a look at the data. The data is base64 encoded string, so we can just take it and decode it with CyberChef. Okay, copy and paste it, you will see the characters here, but this is not the one that contains the answer. If you scroll down, click on show 8 lines, this one, if you copy this and paste it here, you will see that in this line we have HTTPS, and this is the IP address of the attacker, 443 using HTTPS, and then we have /login /process.php. Data equal download data, right? So most likely this is the URL that's being visited by the scheduled task to communicate with the C2 server. This is the URL, and as you can see, /login /process.php. So process.php is the PHP file that's being communicated with by the attackers. So this is the answer for this question. And finally, the room is finished, and you can find the answers and the explanations of the answers for the previous task in my previous videos. In the next videos, I'm going to terminate the machine now. So let's take a look now at the cyber defense pathway and see where we are at the moment. So we finished everything in the threat and vulnerability management, except this one. This room is not ready yet. Let's take a look at the security operations and monitoring the SOC rooms. So as you can see, we have finished all of the rooms in the SOC. These rooms are not finished yet, and they are in the pipeline. So once finished, we will provide the walkthrough for them. Incident response and forensic. In the next videos, we will tackle down the forensic and incident response, starting from autopsy and disk analysis with autopsy. So that was for today. I hope you like it, and see you in the next video.